Hey, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. You want to play games? You want to play games? So I will remove your soul from your body. Do what you got.
No.
Never touch me again.
Sir.
Get the off me.
Sir.
The Sunrise Police Sergeant on the run trying to keep away from our cameras as he bonded out of the Broward County Jail. That officer was arrested for this video here that made headlines showing him grabbing a female officer by the throat.
Sometimes we all lose our cool at work, and we can even take it out on our colleagues. But when you're a cop, keeping your cool is part of the job. So what happens when society's most trusted public servants turn on each other? Let's find out in The Cop That Was Caught F***ing His Female Colleague.
No, he doesn't want in the car. Get in the car. Get in the car.
All right, I'm getting in.
Get your feet in. Watch out. Hey, look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
Instances of police misconduct have raised significant concerns about the integrity and accountability of law enforcement officers. In the age of technology, the camera has been used as a tool to hold people to account for their actions. And as these cops show, every action has a consequence.
Today, not only is he stripped of his title, he's also behind bars facing a felony charge for conspiracy. Now, the sheriff walked us through this elaborate crime, so bear with me as we explain how we got here today.
When 25-year-old Lee County police officer Nico Irizarry made an arrest during a traffic stop, something didn't add up. When investigators found out the truth, they discovered this cop had broken a sacred rule.
Nobody is above the law. Nobody. And that includes our deputies. It saddens me that I'm here, but I promise, as I always have, transparency, trust, and doing the right thing.
Everything seemed fine on the surface, but this bust would take a sinister turn. While performing what looked like a normal traffic stop on December 16, 2021, Irizarry found narcotics, and the driver was taken into custody. 2 months later, this young deputy's life would implode.
Nico Irizarry was a deputy here at the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and the sheriff said he had no problems with him in the time that he was here. Deputies had to travel all the way to Texas to arrest one of the men involved in this elaborate scheme.
Internal Affairs received a complaint that the arrest of the suspect, a realtor, was in fact unlawful. This can often happen if a procedure isn't done correctly, which can happen in a high-pressure job such as law enforcement. But this time, it was a calculated plot.
In January, the Internal Affairs Division received information that something was fishy about that arrest. So Sheriff Carmine Marcino started an investigation, and that investigation uncovered a conspiracy to plant drugs in a car and arrange a traffic stop once they were planted.
In an unbelievable abuse of his power, Irizarry set up the unknown victim, all in the name of money, and he wasn't alone.
The sheriff says the first suspect, named Charles Custodio, didn't like the driver who was originally arrested in that traffic stop. So he hired suspect number 2, whose name is Scott Snyder. Snyder posed as someone looking for homes to have an excuse to get inside the victim's car and plant the drugs. Once those drugs were planted, Custodio called the deputy to stop the victim's vehicle and find the hidden drugs.
All Irizarry had to do was pull the car over. He might have gotten away with it if it wasn't for one crucial error.
Deputy Irizarry also is accused of lying on that arrest report.
Internal Affairs used technology to their advantage and followed the electronic paper trail, with the lead investigator saying the task force utilized state-of-the-art technology to reveal the true names of those involved to identify and access bogus email accounts and text messages. Custodio and Snyder were both charged with trafficking narcotics, possession of a controlled substance, and conspiracy. Irizarry was fired and sentenced to 364 days hard time for his plot to bring down an innocent man. Sometimes fellow police officers can step in when they think there may be a problem, and this next officer sees all kinds of warning signs during one arrest. January 30th, 2021, 14-year-old Malcolm Ziegler was placed in handcuffs and thrown into the back of a police car.
Okay, what's your name? Malcolm?
Yes.
What's your last name? Malcolm Ziegler?
Yeah.
Okay, you got your ID on you?
Got you.
Okay. Okay. Do me a favor, man. Go ahead and put your hands behind your back for me, okay?
2 weeks before the arrest, a Harnett County resident had reported a stolen motorcycle, and that same resident had seen the stolen bike on Facebook Marketplace and decided to pay the seller a visit. When they confirmed it was the stolen bike, the police were called. The officer on the scene had not verified any of the facts or even spoken to the resident who made the call before he decided on his next course of action. He placed Ziegler in handcuffs and marched him to his patrol car.
Can I get the bill of sale and show you that I bought it?
Yeah, we'll get all that taken care of, man. But what I need to do is just hang tight for me right here, okay?
What did I do?
Just hang tight for me right here, okay?
Watching the situation unfold, one fellow officer sees the terrible mistake that's happening in front of him and decides to intervene.
Hey,
Is he detained or is he?
he's detained right now because he's
14. He's 14.
Yes.
Okay.
So I already explained to him he's detained right now. I told him that
So why is he detained?
because that's a stolen motor vehicle.
Even the other officer sounds surprised at the action taken. Ziegler had purchased the bike on Facebook, restored it, and put it back up for sale while having no idea it was stolen. And now he was handcuffed and had all his possessions taken away.
I can show you if you can go on. You can go on my phone. I can show you exactly what I bought it from.
Okay.
Despite his continued claim that he could prove he bought the bike, the officer dismissed him, even being reported as saying Ziegler was running his mouth. His mother had harsh words to say about the police department's arrest method, pleading he was doing his best to clearly communicate to you his desire for his dad and the bill of sale to prove his innocence. You were never there to hear my son. You were only there to arrest him. The superior officer on the scene ordered Ziegler's release.
Hey, where all do you think that bill of sale would be at?
So you can step out. We're gonna take the handcuffs off.
But the damage was done, not only to Ziegler, but the community as a whole. But this was not an isolated incident where another cop had to step in to stop their colleague from committing a terrible mistake. And when that happens, tempers can often flare and things can even turn violent.
Don't ever touch me again.
Sir.
Get the off me.
Sir.
It all started in the town of Greenford, Florida, on October 4, 2022. Officer Christopher Police and Officer Emily Stevens were dispatched to respond to a domestic disturbance call. Both officers arrived at the scene, a small residential neighborhood where they encountered a heated argument between a couple. Officer Police, a veteran officer with a commendable service record, had been on the force for over 20 years. He was known for his authoritative demeanor and had received numerous accolades for his contributions to the community during his service. The victim, Officer Stevens, a dedicated and highly regarded officer, was known for her commitment to diffusing tense situations through effective communication. As Officer Police and Officer Stevens attempted to mediate the situation, tension escalated. As the suspect struggles, Officer Stevens sees the situation heading out of control.
Get in the car. Just get in the car.
All right, I'm getting in.
Officer Police then pulls out a can of mace, and things only get worse.
Hey, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. You want to play games? You play with the wrong mother.
What you gotta do, man? You gonna mace me? Mace me.
You want to play games? You
Sir.
ever get disrespectful with
Sir.
my officers, I will remove your soul from your body.
You could see the suspect immediately comply once you see that can out. Should have been the end of the encounter. That period of time when the sergeant climbed further back into the back seat of the car could have prompted the female officer to think that the sergeant was going to punch the suspect.
What happens next is unbelievable.
A Sunrise Police Sergeant who was caught on camera grabbing a female officer by the neck.
Officer Police's approach leaves a lot to be desired. He forcefully grabs Officer Stevens by the throat, attempting to restrain her. The incident, captured on both officers' body-worn cameras, revealed Officer Police's misuse of physical force against a fellow officer. The footage from that afternoon soon hit the media.
21-year veteran of the Sunrise Police Department, Sergeant Christopher Police, is seen on body cam video putting his hands on another officer's throat. That officer, a woman, has only been with the department for a little more than 2 years. She was trying to intervene and de-escalate a tense situation brought on by Sergeant Police during an arrest. She pulled him by his belt, and he turned and grabbed her neck.
As news of this incident emerged, it quickly gained the attention of both local and national news.
A police officer in Florida caught on video grabbing another officer by the throat.
Police sergeant has been charged with felony battery after being caught on body cam video grabbing a female police officer by the neck during an arrest.
Big development in the case of an on-duty police sergeant accused of crossing the line.
The video footage, which shows clearly the assault of Officer Stevens, went viral on social media platforms, sparking outrage from the public.
Why did not the cops on the scene who witnessed the sergeant's behavior of assaulting that female cop, why they didn't put the handcuffs on that sergeant and put him in the back seat? See, that's the problem. Cops can commit crimes on video, and they don't go to jail as quick as others do.
But this officer couldn't run from the very law he'd been working for.
That police sergeant's actions now the focus of an internal affairs investigation.
8 months after the incident, Sergeant Christopher Police now finds himself here at the Broward Main Jail on the other side of the law.
The Greenford Police Department recognized the severity of the incident and immediately launched an internal investigation. To make sure the results were as impartial as possible, an external oversight committee was appointed to monitor the investigation process. This was the police department's way of showing that they still held their officers accountable for their actions.
We need to train our police officers that no matter what you think you're going to do, you have to override your brain and take steps.
The investigation involved a thorough examination of the video evidence, interviews with the officer police and Officer Stevens, and witnesses present at the scene. The aim was to establish a factual account of the incident and find out exactly what kind of punishment was needed. But behind the scenes, Officer Police had sent a text message to a group of officers less than 2 hours after the incident, in which he said, "All, it is important not to air out dirty laundry to any officers that are not on this platoon, as it's none of their business." One officer that received the text later said, "I felt it was a cover-up." When the phone was taken by investigators, they discovered something suspicious. Officer Police had made a claim he had updated his phone and erased information from the very day of the incident. Officer Police was immediately placed on administrative leave pending the investigation's outcome. This was an attempt to uphold the department's commitment to ensuring an unbiased inquiry and maintaining public trust. But the investigation would not go as smoothly as many hoped.
The heated exchange between Commissioner Joseph Sciutto and Assistant Deputy Mayor Mark Douglas was over this video, where 21-year veteran of the Sunrise Police Department, Sergeant Christopher Police, is seen on body cam video putting his hands on another officer's throat.
Additionally, Officer Stevens received the necessary support and counseling to address the emotional and physical impact of the incident. The department acknowledged the trauma she endured and provided resources to aid her recovery. The case caused conflict not only with the public, but with the police themselves, as one of their own was now potentially looking at hard prison time, and all for losing his cool. The Greenford Police Department took decisive action on holding Officer Police accountable for his actions. Based on the evidence presented, a disciplinary hearing was conducted, where Officer Police faced an uncertain future.
A Sunrise sergeant has been relieved of supervisory duties and is under investigation following this incident.
Considering Officer Police's previous commendable record, the department determined that his actions constituted a serious violation of professional conduct. Police officers are supposed to remain calm under any circumstances, and although it seemed Officer Police was caught off guard, it does not excuse his behavior toward a fellow officer. And then, Officer Police's worst nightmare came true.
So we just learned that Sunrise Police Sergeant Christopher Police has been arrested. This is following an incident in late 2021 when he pulled an officer by the neck. There is his recent mugshot right there. So to recap the breaking news that is happening at this hour, Sunrise Police Sergeant Christopher Police has turned himself in. He is now being held here at the Broward Main Jail. This 8 months after he was caught on video camera grabbing the throat of one of his fellow officers.
The incident involving Officer Police's assault on Officer Stevens had far-reached consequences for both law enforcement and the community. It not only highlighted the need for stricter accountability measures, but also revealed the ongoing issues surrounding gender in law enforcement. Would Officer Police have grabbed a male officer by the throat in such a threatening way? The incident's impact on police-community relations could have been devastating and left permanent damage. The abuse of power exhibited in this incident undermined police trust and highlighted highlighted issues surrounding gender inequality that still exists in the profession. By taking immediate action, conducting thorough investigations, and holding the officer accountable for his actions, the Sunrise Police Department began the process of rebuilding public trust. On November 4th, 2018, a little over a month after the story broke the news, Sergeant Police Chief received a memorandum, and the short message was perfectly clear. Please accept this memorandum as a formal notification that I am retiring from the city on Sunrise, effective on the above date. Ultimately, the incident involving Officer Police should serve as a catalyst for change, prompting law enforcement agencies to reevaluate training protocols, disciplinary procedures, and community engagement efforts. Through a sustained commitment to upholding the reputation of the department, law enforcement can regain public trust and have a safer, more inclusive environment for both officers and the communities they serve. But with incidents like this becoming so common, how long will it be before one cop kills another while on duty? Let me know what you think about the case in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can keep up with every gripping case.